We are talking today about why your emails aren't landing in customer inboxes and what to do about it. With our panel partner, Activator. So excited that Bobby Gaudreau from Activator Dealer Solutions is here, as well as we got Jeff Ramsey, CMO at the Oarsman Auto Group, and Brad Gelber, the Director of Marketing at Western Automotive Group. Normally, I would just know those off the top of my head, but this is day 2 of a really long conference, so I had to read them. So I apologize. Give us a little bit of background of the stores or company, and I know we said CMO, Director of Marketing, VP of Sales. Give us like the 30-second pitch of what your role looks like on a day-to-day. So we'll start here.
Western Automotive Group, largest auto group in New York State. My role day-to-day is I probably couldn't tell you what I do day-to-day. That's a little of everything marketing-wise. Came up sort of on the digital side of marketing, but now help oversee an internal team of about 10 people, and then our external vendors we work with as well. All things sort of marketing related, whether it's traditional, digital, everything in between. So little of everything every day. So
awesome. Bobby.
Hi, I'm Bobby Gaudreau. I'm the Vice President at Activator Dealer Solutions. So Activator kind of got its start as a standalone equity mining tool a number of years ago. Kind of over COVID, we became a marketing automation platform, and now we're in the process of really becoming a full-blown customer data platform and marketing activation tool. And then just for me, personally, I've spent most of my career in the automotive space. I started off on the retail side, but for probably about the last 25 years or so, I've worked for a lot of tech companies. So I worked for a company called IMN that was a newsletter company that was sold to Reynolds and Reynolds. I worked for a company called Dealerator that was sold to cars.com. And then a few other ones that probably nobody's heard about, but happy to be here.
Awesome. Jeff.
Jeff Ramsey, Chief Marketing Officer for Robert Oarsman's 18 locations, and every day is different. I deal with vendors. I approve budgets, work with GMs, approve allocations, shape our general brand to the public. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to kick it off with you, Jeff, since you just finished talking. You got to keep rolling. As we were preparing for this, you were kind of like hearkening back to when we really got into emailing as an industry in probably like the 2010s, in the 20 teens and things like that, and where the ship started to go wrong from an email perspective.
Oh man, I love this. So So I've been in automotive 19 years. I've sat with the experts, the OEMs that come in, they're like, you got to write this email. And it's 3 pages long. It tells the history of the car and the history of your store and the history of you. And it does not answer the customer's question. The shorter, so when I see like these bad habits that exist in CRMs, exist in like email follow-up, it's like, oh man, I sat there with experts when I was like 25 years old. And they were telling me to put all this together. It's been like grandfathered in, and that's where we have all these bad habits. So all you vendors and experts out there, I'm blaming you. Just the ones from 10 years ago. But, yeah.
Only from 10 years ago. None of the current ones. They're lovely, right?
All the current guys are great.
Yeah, I think, when I look back at it, we, and obviously email, anybody get like 33 emails before 9 a.m. from all of the things that they've signed up ever in their life? Anybody want to get rid of those? Yeah. Okay. Me too. There is an unsubscribe button. We can have a therapy session about that afterwards. Okay. But I think what we get into, and maybe talk about this a little bit, Jeff, is we get into this like, oh, I see Best Buy and I see these other people like sending these emails all the time. And so I must need to do the same thing. Right.
Yeah. And how I've described it to people, it's like, I'm not selling $5 Happy Meals, to a family once a week. I'm selling $50,000 Highlanders to a person once every couple of years. The Best Buys, the ones where you have a more frequent decision at a lower price, those are different. It's different messaging that goes out. So you have car dealers trying to emulate that, and they're sending out like, I always just call them like, stop sending these Picasso paintings out to people where it's like all these different, all this artwork and all this. It means nothing to the customer. Shorten it. Create the engagement, the best things the best open rates, the best replies, the best interaction from customers has always been the shortest message.
That's awesome. So I think that's problem number one, like the types of emails I was sending. Bobby, I'd like for you to talk a little bit to the current state of what the inbox is looking for, right? Especially some of the things that like Google and Yahoo are doing, not just from like a DNS record perspective, but also from the types of like the emails, the actual emails we're sending, and what the problems that we have with why maybe we aren't landing as many emails that we wish we would.
I mean, I think a lot of this is obvious, but it can get overlooked or underestimated. And it's almost like you're it's like an analogy to like SEO, right? I mean, so it's the job of Google, or it's the job of Yahoo, or it's the job of, if you work for a big corporation that is essentially the email service provider. So they're looking at these ISPs and they're looking at all this information that's hitting their servers. And so if all of a sudden they see this big batch coming from, ABC at whatever, and the majority of those emails are invalid email addresses, and or the majority of no one opens those, or there's a lot of bounces, then you're immediately getting flagged. And then all it takes is a couple flags before you end up getting, blocked or getting reported to spam. And none of these, ESPs have any obligation whatsoever to tell you, oh, by the way, you've been blacklisted, or, oh, by the way, that you've been flagged. And I mean, so when I think of like the things, so we are sending out the emails on behalf of the dealership. As far as the Google or Yahoo is concerned, it's coming from us. As far as the consumer getting it, it's coming from the dealership. But, the steps and the tools and things that we have internally just to make sure of that, it's way more than just getting into the inbox. It's all about what's happening when it gets there. Just getting there is really the first step.
Yep. Brad, we were talking a little bit about like the weight of sending emails. I think that's a big deal. And you all have actually hired someone internally. What led you, and what was the problem that you were trying to solve that led you to hire someone internally, like solely to focus on emails?
Yeah. So I'm just going to say, I think email is one of the most underrated forms of marketing that's utilized not just in automotive, but in general. We kind of think about like social media, we think about our websites, we think about TV, radio, some billboards, like all these mechanisms. But I was talking to Kiara on our team, who we hired as our email marketing coordinator, and we were talking about how email is such an intimate thing. It's like a one-to-one connection with someone that you have decided essentially to opt into speaking to you, right? We do a lot of these broad forms of marketing and we hope we attract the attention of the people. But in this instance, it's someone who's waved their hand and said, hey, I'd like to hear from you. If you're doing it the right way, I guess, compliant wise. But so in that instance, we, in my role or our team, we never really had anyone who owned email. We have people in the auto space who own a lot of things. We have technicians who fix cars, salespeople who sell the cars. In marketing, we're supposed to kind of juggle wear every hat, do everything. So we would send haphazard emails when we had time here or there, a big sales event, or hey, we got too many Ford F-150s, let's do a blast. So it was like, well, why don't we have one person focus on emails, because they are that important. And we've seen in the last
And you said how many people are on the team?
Currently on our marketing team?
Yeah.
10 people.
And what are those roles? So it's you?
Yep. So we have a marketing director, a co-marketing director who it's myself and her. We have a content team that consists of our senior marketing coordinator, who she oversees organic social. I still handle most of the paid social. We have our in-house videographer. We have our junior marketing coordinator, who he is responsible for project management mostly. We have our website analyst, who she is also here. She helps oversee our 40 plus websites for the group. We have 3 graphic designers, one being sort of our creative director lead there. So that's comprised mostly of our internal team. And then we work with obviously outside vendors.
And what's staggering to me there is like, you haven't hired channel-specific people for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Google ads, Facebook ads, anything of the channels that everybody else would say are the most powerful channels for marketing, but you have hired a channel-specific person for emails.
Yep.
That's
And Kyle, that's not because we don't want to. I would love to do that.
You would,
you know resources,
but that was the priority,
how it goes.
But that was a priority,
yes,
right?
Yes.
You prioritize that.
And I think it's because, unfortunately, the way we're lucky to even sometimes have a person dedicated to social. That's the space I came up in, and Kelsey on our team does a great job of that. But even going further to your point, it should be an expert in each part of social, but even having a person dedicated to social, I think, is still somewhat rare in our field.
Yeah.
So kind of doing that with email has been great for us.
Bobby, what I'd love to get into now is like, okay, so now we know some of the problems and we want to know what to do about it, right? And the what to do about it really starts with laying a great foundation, right? Can you talk about the foundation and what foundation? And I think this slide actually speaks to it a little bit. But what foundations do we need to lay so that some of the things that I think Brad and Jeff want to talk through on what to do about it can be as effective as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably talk for an hour on the foundations, but if I focus on two things, so if the ultimate goal with the email marketing is to be able to reach and engage people and then to really start a conversation. So I think the two foundational areas on that is, and like, we have been very passionate, and sometimes I feel like I'm getting a little bit on a soapbox, but is the quality of the data. And there's a big difference between saying data hygiene and kind of an ongoing data management strategy. And I'm not dissing data hygiene. Like, we do data hygiene, but we don't just stop there. Like, data hygiene, ages like milk. Like, if you're just doing data hygiene like in batches, or you're doing it even once a month, all it takes is about 5 minutes for all of a sudden that information to start to get contaminated. And so it's the breadth and the depth of the challenges with the data when you're starting to pull things in to do any kind of, whether it's an ongoing journey where people are getting triggered in based off of a certain event, or you're saying, well, we want to try to sell XYZ car this weekend, or we're just doing a customer appreciation. Regardless, you're making a decision on who you want to reach. You're pulling that information in from some database, and the likelihood is that you're pulling in a lot of bad data is 100%. And so it's not enough to just say, all right, every now and then I'm going to go kind of clean that data. It's got to be ongoing, 365, 24/7. And then I think the next piece of that foundation is really, what is in the tech stack that's delivering that, right? And again, there's 100 different directions that you can go in that, but there is, I would just kind of mention, there's a big difference between saying, automated marketing versus marketing automation. And if it's getting to the ability to be personalized and understanding behavior, a lot of the older kind of automated marketing systems just can't keep up with that. There's nothing wrong with it. It just hasn't evolved.
So from a data hygiene perspective, one thing that I see in automotive is where the data hygiene occurs does not communicate to your DMS, to your CRM. So my question to you guys, how do you get all of your channels housing the customer's information to talk to each other and have the best data possible at all times, so everyone is sharing the same data sets?
Yeah. So for us, we kind of arrived at this. Like, we ran into a challenge a number of years ago where we started to do so we do our marketing now. We rebuilt our marketing infrastructure through Salesforce, and we use Marketing Cloud. So Marketing Cloud is designed for kind of B2C marketing. Salesforce also uses Pardot, which is kind of really designed more for B2B marketing. So when we first started pushing out marketing, we immediately got taken to our knees because we started pulling in a lot of bad data. And that just kind of fast forwarded us and kind of sped us up to kind of going faster with what we call now our data management layer. So when we launch a dealer on our CDP, really the first thing that we do is we clean up the information out of the DMS. So most campaigns that are kind of going to current customers are probably generating out of lists out of the DMS and the CRM. And so we start our foundation in the CDP by cleaning out and kind of creating a customer profile of all of the duplicate records.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, and this is something that I think the DMSs and the CRMs are thinking about and working on, but we definitely do have still an issue in our industry where all the systems don't talk, right? We're attempting to get a source of truth, a system of record, right? Where unsubscribed, opt-outs, email updates, all are two-way communicative with all of these systems, but it's still a problem. So like, I would say continue to ask your partners to do that, right? Ask for two-way communications, because most of the newer tech can do that out of the box. It's some of the legacy tech that's still working on that. I think that source of truth is important. Jeff, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but that like simple communication also lends itself to much more personalization. It's not just like that blast email that's simple, but also the personalized email. Can you give some examples? Like you were giving us an example of like even a trade email that you guys pulled off. Yeah.
So for, a lot of times you look at we overthink email blasts. And even if the data is not perfect, you can overcome that with it's just my opinion. You can overcome that with a great email, a short email. And that's one where, for me, where the data, my systems weren't talking to each other. So it's like, I'm pretty sure this is good. So I'm pulling service records. You pull 6 months of service records and email them, hey, and always check your merge fields. But hey, customer name, I noticed you're in for service on this day. Would you be open to trading that car? Does it still have roughly this many miles on it? I need that car for my department. This is my direct cell. Please call or text me. If you can't put your own direct cell in there, like call or text me, and they call and they get the group ring or whatever, or you're just so you're going to be recorded, whatever that message is, where everyone's mind goes, what am I in for? If you can just make it short, put that direct contact in there. I had a general manager at a previous auto group that said, I need customers. I said, well, let's try this out. So I send it, and I got a text from him within a couple minutes that said this is a joke, but he said, I'm going to physically harm you, because his phone was blowing up. And I was like, I didn't think I was going to get that much of a reaction. Half hour later, he's like, where can I take you to lunch? Because customers, they see that and they're like, I can connect with a person. It's a short message. And that's what they want to see. That's what they're going to engage with. Send them this, the long messages that we're used to, delete, unsubscribe, spam, whatever.
Yeah. You gave us a stat about your email deliverability, and not just deliverability, but open rates based on the types of emails that you're sending. Yeah. Can you talk about the types of email that you're sending, and then also like land the plane with what you're actually getting? And also, before you answer that, I do have the Q&A open. So if you have questions for any of these three, please feel free and drop it in. I'll try and hit those here in just a couple of minutes before we wrap up. So.
Yeah, just in terms of the types of emails, we still send sales-based emails depending on, what the stores are looking to move. You had that desire from a GM. We still send those types of emails. The way we try to soften them is to speak to people like they're people, right? Like we're not robots consuming things. We're not all AI yet. So it's like we still want to be spoken to the same way we would talk to someone on social media or these other platforms. Is very personal. It's the same way if we sit down and have one-to-one conversation in person. So we try to use email in a similar manner, despite whatever the type of email we're sending. We also send other types of emails as well. We try to do some engaging types of emails as well. If it's like a giveaway component, right? Like by now you might know West Her, Josh Allen, MVP of the NFL, just saying. But we'll do some giveaways like that, where it's like, hey, thanks for being a part of the West Her family. You can win a signed Josh Allen jersey, no strings attached. We're not selling you anything. We're just reaching out to you to have a genuine connection. And we do that too, because at the end of the day, what we're working towards is being trusted by Google, these other entities that are the email people themselves, but then also the people receiving the emails. We want them to want to open our emails at the end of the day, not be like, oh God, not another email from West Her, delete, whatever you said, unsubscribe, spam sort of thing. And it's worked. We started off basically, we use MailChimp to send our group-wide emails, I think I mentioned before, but we kind of worked on cleaning up our data as we talked about, doing it kind of the old-fashioned way at first of just like what is spam, who doesn't open any of these emails, let's flush it out, because we had a lot of old records in there. And then we started sending in smaller batches to the people that were highly engaged users first. And we built out that audience over time to now we're hitting 40, 50% open rates at times on large scale emails, because people are willing to engage with our emails and they're not dreading that Wester email.
That's awesome. Bobby, I think you've got a little bit of like thinking about a customer's journey, right? You have really championed like this one-to-one, personalized, right time, right person, right message to increase engagement. Can you talk about like the way you're thinking about journeys and the way you're thinking about an individual customer record as opposed to like just the dealership's overall set of records?
Yeah, and I think it kind of comes back to a little bit the question that you had before is, so we want to, so there's, a lot of people talk about, the golden record, right? Like that's a good term, right? And then, I think now someone else is calling it the platinum record. And so the approach that we had when we first started to clean up the data, our initial theory was, okay, well, we're going to find, if there's 5 records for Kyle, we want to say, all right, here's all these 5 records, and then we're going to pick the best one. And then we're going to say, well, that's the primary marketing record. But then as we started to go through that, we realized, well, of those 5 records, there's actually valuable information in all 5 of those records. So we don't want to have to eliminate some, so we essentially create them all together into a customer profile. And that started out of the DMS. And now we're in the process of pulling that in from the CRM. So it essentially becomes a super record of that customer. And we're able to report back to our customers is, of all of these customers that you have, here's how many people you have in your database. Here's how many people you can actually reach. Here's how many people you can reach over email. Here's how many people you can reach over the phone. Here's how many people you can reach over direct mail. And then there's just this continuous process of cleaning that up. And so that way we're scoring the ability to, does this person qualify to go into a particular journey, to kind of make sure that, this is things that they want to hear about. And then we're looking at the past engagement to be able to score what's going to be the best way to reach them. It might be email for somebody, or it might be a text for somebody else.
That's awesome. I'm going to lean into 2 of these questions here as we wrap up. Brad, have you experimented at all with like net new lists, bringing those types of things into working emails? And if the answer is no, that's fine. But or has it always been just existing customer base out of the CRM and the DMS?
Yeah, mostly we've used our own data because we're fortunate to have a lot of it. So yeah. It's different. I mean, I think probably if you're a single point store or someone who's have a lot of customer records or historical data to go off of, we're sort of in the situation where we have so much data. It's more the opposite problem of like, how do we utilize it the right way
how
type
do I
of
break
thing.
It up, like
we've done conquesting lists and things like that sometimes, like through a third party, where we might be trying to reach a customer that we think has a competitive brand or something like that. But for the most part, we're leveraging the data we have in-house. So.
I actually heard someone earlier today. I was talking to them. They said they've determined over 150 segments within their data that have relevancy on a month-to-month basis, right? Which is, it's a reality. You can get to that. So especially in larger data sets, like group-wide data sets that go, these are unique types of styles of consumer with different pieces in their journey. So I think it's really important. Like, it's not just, oh, I got 100,000 people. What do I need to tell them this week, right? It's no, what do these 3,000 people, what do these 100 people, what do these 5,000 people need to hear right now? I'm going to ask this question to Jeffrey because I think he loves answering it, actually. The question is, when you get emails from an industry partner or vendor, what appeases you the most to get you to open and or click?
Oh, man, I feel like there's a lot of pressure in that.
There's some pressure, but I've seen you answer some of these questions, so I think it's good to be real about it. Yeah.
So when if a vendor just blind reaches out to me,
cold outreach, yeah, they got a list,
If it's a cold, reference someone that we both know, because I think in the vendor world, to dealers, I mean, there's so much rotation of people, and in my time in auto. I have those I trust that I deal with, and you see, similar to salespeople in car dealerships, you see that cycle that goes through with, the bottom 10, 15%, some stores more. reference a person that I know. You find us on LinkedIn, have it be a genuine connection. Man, I feel like my inbox is going to explode when I get off here if I say the wrong thing. Keep it short and personal. So for me, and if I can adjust this a little bit, I'd say just get to the point, because I think
there's a trend here. You're
I don't. There's
get to the
recent,
point for customers. Get to the point for me. Like, don't make it.
Well, and there's a recent thing that happened. I'm looking around to make sure this person's not here. If you are, we're good. But I had said I need, hey, I want to sign this product up. It was a new person to this to the vendor, and I said, just give me pricing, because I know it's by region. I have stores, all over. And I get this email it had to be like, if I printed it, 2 pages. And I replied, we're going to work on this together. This is the question I need you to answer. What's the price? I know what the product is. I don't need you to sell me on it. Just answer my question. And he replied sorry, I'm just nervous. I said, we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
But just keep it short.
Help me help you.
Yeah.
Here's my therapy bench. Right.
Yeah. Because you're going to, I'm ready to buy.
Yeah.
You're going to talk yourself out of the sale. Yeah. So for me, it's keep it short and sweet.
That's actually huge insight for both sides of the coin, right? And Bobby, I'd like to ask you, just as we close, do you see more success trying to get people to click, or just give them the information that they want so they respond? Where does the success lie? And I'm kind of leading the question because it sounds, I think, Jeff, you've already answered the question, and I think we all know what we want, right? But where do you see the success happening?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not necessarily this chicken or this egg type of a scenario.
Yeah.
So I think in the context that we're in, it's having a, just as us as consumers, right? We're going to open up things like when we weren't completely caught off guard, or we already have an existing relationship with that customer or that particular brand, but that has to start somewhere. But the good news is, at a dealership, you've got a list of hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are your paying customers, right? And you have that existing relationship with them. So having something in the back end, and that's where we're starting to see a lot of success, is kind of just running these things in the background where you're not asking for anything. You're not necessarily trying to sell them anything. You're just trying to build and maintain a relationship and learn a little bit, because the more you share information and someone responds, you learn a little bit more about them. And then the more you learn, then your next piece of communication is going to be that much more relevant. And so, there's kind of a continuum on that, and everyone's going to start at a different place, but your end goal is to start to build a relationship with people. And in some cases, it starts on day one. In other places, you got to work hard a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's one more question that I'm actually going to take the answer on, because we at ASOTU are pretty dang good at sending emails as well. We do it every single day. But the question is around all the inbox changes, right? And obviously Bobby's team has someone, and Brad's team has someone that's particularly dedicated to email, right? On our team, we actually have 2 people that are solely dedicated to email, and I oversee the tech of that email. The encouragement here is you should know what's going on in the inboxes right now. Apple just released their new iOS. It has an entirely new inbox status that so many newsletters and broad things are getting pushed into. That's where hyper personalization really works, because you have a chance of hitting primary inbox a lot more. And you should be very, very aware that your IT team needs to be on top of DNS records, specifically what's called a DKIM and an SPF record. If you don't have those set correctly, or if you have too many SPF records on your domain where you get past the 10 SPF record limit for Gmail, you will stop delivering to G Suite. And the Microsoft ecosystem is just as strict, if not stricter. And so many people in the world are using their business emails when they're interacting with either the industry partners or the customers that you have. So staying on top of those, I can tell you, if you're interested in email, or you have someone that's email on your team, follow the SendGrid blog, Constant Contact, Beehive. That's actually the platform that we use at ASOTU. Salesforce Marketing Cloud comes out with a lot of great content around email as well. So if you're interested in staying on top of like what are the trends, what are the inboxes doing, what changed, why did more spam happening, and then Google also has a UI where you can go in, submit your domain in there, and constantly get updates on how Google perceives your domain. So you can just look at, like, I think if you search like Google domain checker, you can go right in there. But you should be aware, especially if you're a group like a Westher or an Oarsman, that everybody in your org is using @westher.com. Westher, everybody says Westher. Then you should be watching that. If you're in marketing, if you're an industry partner, you should be watching your domain's email authority, because one person can shut that entire thing down if you do it wrong. Yeah.
And you know, you can get, I just call it Google jail. I don't know what the real term is.
For sure you can.
So if you screw this up or allow someone to screw it up on your team, you can get put in Google jail to where everything's just going to spam. And you'll end up with things bouncing back. And there is a way to kind of work through this with Google. It doesn't always go well, but that's why it's so important to really refine your list and be, you know, careful about what you're sending, because once Google deems you as spam, there's no point in emailing at that point. Yep. No one's seeing anything.
And there's domain verifications, another thing we didn't really get into, but
Yep.
Using sort of a secondary email to not necessarily get yourself in that situation is a whole other thing. But the last thing I would just say is test, right? Like we test emails. So like check how it looks on a device. Obviously there's different browsers you can look at stuff, but like look how it comes in on different phones, different browsers. Like just send the email and actually try it. Because how many forms of marketing do we have where we just like blast it out? We don't even look at it. Like give it a shot and actually look at what you're sending.
Real device testing. Yep,
because
exactly.
It's important. Obviously, I think we've hammered that home today. So
That's awesome. Well, if you have questions for these gentlemen, they'll be around hanging out. Feel free to ask questions. I'm glad to answer any questions as well. But give them a round of applause. Thank them for their time and their commitment to this.